Hey, good morning and good evening to anyone who is joining. My name is Amin Nordin, and we are back live in our third webinar. So we've just gone out live. We're supposed to start at 8 o'clock as usual. And let's give it a minute or two before we are going to talk about our a topic that we are very, how do you say, fond of, right? So it's about how to engage your team so that they are happier and more productive. And this is a favorite topic of ours because a lot of our users actually have very cool ways to use AhaSlides, and I'm pretty stoked to share this. Um, so, without further ado, I'm going to go into this. But for most of you who will be joining later on, thanks for clicking on the videos and listening for the first 2 minutes at least. And I hope you get something out of this webinar. So our webinar, it's every Thursday, 8 p.m. Singapore time, so that's plus 8 GMT. And the whole idea of about doing this webinar, it's we realized that AhaSlides, it's a very useful tool. It's an interactive presentation. It's familiar, but it's new at the same time. And our goal for this webinar, each webinar session, we want to leave our viewers with a sense of knowing what to do with AhaSlides. Like, think of it like a cooking pan, right? So most of our users think of AhaSlides like a one-time recipe that you might probably do at certain events or festivals, right? So you might come to our slides to do your town hall meetings, or you might want to do your Christmas session with your teams, and then you might not come back. So which is totally okay, but the whole idea about having this webinar, it's our goal is to let our users know that's you. What else you can do with our slides, right? And yeah, so the topic for today that I want to talk about, it's how being engaging to your team makes your team happier and more productive. It's a huge topic actually. On this note, um, so we actually just a quick note to sidetrack the whole session. We've been running a lot of campaigns in Australia, and we've had a lot of influencers giving their take about what engagement means, right? And um, one of the, I can't remember the name. So sorry to the influencer. He's very important to us, but he said being engaged is to care, um, and to understand, and to be involved, to be present with your team, right? So the term engage, though as simple as it may sound, is actually um, a very important and robust term, right? So what we're not going to do for this session is we're not going to cover everything to do with being engaged, or everything you should do to prevent your team from being disengaged. What we want to cover is literally quick tips that you can take to engage your team with AhaSlides, hopefully. And hopefully that helps you to kick off a journey where you and your team members are more engaged, so that your daily lives doesn't feel like a drag, right? Coming to work, it feels like each day you get to know your team members better, and there's a lot more synchrony, a lot more relationship building, and it feels like you're being building a long-term relationship, right? So, so why is team engagement important? Um, for some companies, maybe for a lot of companies actually, um, you know, your job and your business as usual are probably routine, right? So you come to work, there's a certain set of tasks that you know you have to complete, and your team has done it for a long time, right? So maybe everything is routine, everything is the same, and you might ask me like, hey, everything is the same. Like I don't see any problem with it. So, and then from time to time, towards maybe certain quarters, you have team activities, etc. And you might feel that this is not important. So that's a group of team members, which I totally respect. That you've got something good going and you want to keep it as it is, and you don't see any problem with what you have. Maybe for these teams, I might not have a solution, but if you stick on and you feel like this is useful, like let me know. Um, but for a lot of teams that are just setting up, or you don't have that camaraderie, team engagement is extremely important because of these three main points, right? Number one, the most important to me, especially, is to build trust between team members. So I've worked in a lot of teams over the past 12 years in different teams, and I need to get the teams to gel very very quickly. And one of the things that I think is most important between the team members and the leader, it's always trust. Like your team has to trust the each other and also trust the leader, and there's no two ways about it. You got to engage your team members, and it's a active process. You got to be involved, you got to be there, right? Now once you have trust, then you start to expand the safe space. So now it's not a professional setting where there is a task to do, and your team just gets about it. You want to create this safe space where there is a bit of flexibility. There's a bit of the ability for your team members to take initiative, to suggest things, to make a little risk, right? Do a little mistake, and they know that this is a safe space for your team. And what happens is when you have trust and you have a safe space, it creates an environment that is very cultivating, and that's where productivity is maximized. So team engagement is a huge topic. If you type in team engagement on Google, you'll find that there's a lot of things to do with team engagement, how to engage your team, and on the other side, how to prevent disengagement. It's huge. It's huge. So we are barely scratching the surface here. So the first tip for all teams, whether you've worked with each other for years or months or even just days, the first tip is try to get to know each member of your team, not just on a work basis, but like get to know your team as a friend, more than a colleague. Well, there's still a need to balance professionalism, but at the same time, it's also good to be a friend to your team members, right? And how do you do this in a very, how do you say, less intrusive way? You don't want to be like, I'm stepping across the professional boundary. And one of the things that I really like with AhaSlides, which I couldn't do before, is that you can do this, right? So this is a word cloud. So if you don't have account on AhaSlides, what you can do on AhaSlides is basically quickly come in, choose the word cloud slide type, and you can type this, right? And this is very powerful because you could do it in a in-person session, remotely or on site, or you could also do this asynchronous. So meaning you create this slide and then you let the audience lead the presentation, so the audience can toggle as they wish, and you give this slide to your team, which is the link, right? And you can say, hey team, I just want to know how you feel today. And this is two things. One is it's a conversation opener. If your team feels happy, you can tell. If someone feels tired, you can also tell. And someone doesn't feel so good, bloated, you can also tell, right? And the reason why this is a safe space, because it's fully anonymous. You can see there's no name here. And if the words are bigger, it usually means that there's more than one person who said that, right? So words that are more commonly spoken or highlighted, they tend to be bigger. So you can get a quick sense about your team, and it opens up the, what do you call it, the for you to have a rough sense about how your team members are feeling, and it's a great conversation opener, right? So if you're a team leader, I would highly recommend that you do this at least once every fortnight, right? Send this to your team. Start off the Monday. Everyone's coming on Monday. Some might be dragging, some might be looking forward, and you ask your team, hey team, how are you feeling today? Take a step back and ask your team members, and you start to see them opening up slightly, and that's what you want. That's a start to building trust and creating a safe space for your team members. Now, this is a fun thing to do. Quick side story. So I found out that some of the Amazon team members. So apparently in Amazon, in the what do you call it, in the product side, they have tons of features, right? And it was impossible to get updates from every product manager in Amazon. And instead of going through every single product manager, they have this spinner wheel. And the whole idea was that if you are a product manager, instead of one by one, everyone has to go through their product updates, you get lucky. So you get chosen in a spinner wheel like this. And if your name comes out, you have to give a report on your team. I think that's pretty cool, right? So let's say you have 50 team, 50 product managers, right? And you want each of them to be prepared, but you can't go through all of them. So you use a spinner wheel, and voila, it's a free, random, and a fair way to say, okay, this week is just you being unlucky or lucky for that matter. Now, one of the things you can do on a Friday evening, right? So on the Monday, you start off with sensing how the team is feeling, how your team members are feeling. So you get to know each other a bit better on a personal side. That's safe, still professional. On a Friday, when everyone's letting their hair down, it's towards the evening, and you might be having karaoke sessions or something fun to play with. It's kind of interesting to play this game, truth or dare, and tell us a fun secret, right? And it could be anything. It could be getting the team members to share what's your hobby, anything fun you're doing this weekend, and all these small side talks. And I think this is the most important thing for a lot of teams, especially if you are a remote team. In my experiences of running remote teams, it's the meetings tend to get very short. It's basically 10 a.m. the meeting starts, and you have this quick little highs. Hey everyone, how's it? And then you get straight into the agenda, right? But what you want to do is to have these small talks, pre-meeting and post-meeting, whether it's at the start of the week, at the start of each stand-up, or towards the end. And the whole idea is to recreate this water cooler talk that you would normally have if you are in an office. So I find spinner wheel really fun to use, very easy to use, and you can change the title to be anything, right? Could be a storytelling, could be anything, right? So spinner wheel is very good for you to start engaging your team. So this is something easy, and it creates this sort of like first layer of engagement, right? Now, as you start to build those relationships, the next thing you want to do is to recognize your team and their hard work. But before I go to tip number 2, thank you for all who are joining right now, and from wherever you are, like, I would really appreciate it if you find this whole talk useful. Do share this, do give it a like so that we get the algorithms up, and we can get more people to learn about useful tips, right, on how to use AhaSlides, and also for work purposes. So I would really appreciate that if you could do that favor for me. And let's get back to session. So tip number 2, and this is something you should do on a regular basis. It's to recognize your team and their hard work. Now, on a normal case scenario, without AhaSlides, it's actually very difficult to do this. Like, you would have to create an event or opportunity. And in normal cases, a lot of teams use the town halls or the monthly meetings, right? But what if you want to do every fortnight, just a mini session between your team members, so that you guys bond over the grind, right? Working in a team can get very, how do you say, grindish. basically it's like, okay, we need to do these 10 things and we need to get it out there, right? um, for team members especially, like for me personally, if my boss takes the time to create something fun, something easy, to say I see you and I thank you for your work, it feels wholesome. It feels like my work is not like I'm contributing to something and my work is recognized, right? So how do you do this easily in AhaSlides? Now, one of our favorite tools to do it is to do a poll, um, and we ask random questions about what our team does this month or this week. Could be anything, right? This is an amazing function, right? And what it does is basically, one, you get to give a shout out to the team who has achieved this, and two, for those team members who are not aware that this is happening, it keeps them updated, right? So this is fantastic. So basically, it's not like, oh, he did that kind of thing. It's, hey guys, you know how much we got this month? And then when your team members have a quick fun guessing, maybe 50, 100. Now, I did a bad job because this is too huge, right? So what you want to do is like 51,000, 50,000, 52,000. Have a bit of fun guessing. And then when the team guess and you select the right answer, it gives the what do you call that, a bit of recognition to the team that accomplished this, right? And you say, hey guys, thanks for a great job to the marketing team. You guys did 50,000, amazing effort, and we did it better than last week, for example. So this is easy to do every week. Friday, after your spinner wheel truth or dare session with your team, you can have this quick, okay guys, what did we do last week kind of session. You could also do as trivial as Jira tasks. So at AhaSlides, we use Jira to clock our tasks. I'm still trying to get the hang of it, as you can see here. This is almost partly true. We have Ang, our SEO expert. She's usually clocking a lot of tasks. And me, I'm trying to struggle to, even update my tasks on Jira. But this is something fun that we do in our teams, and it's pretty useful. It's a bit of fun, right? Because, those who clock the task, I mean, the joke is you could be really doing work or you're just clocking tasks at your task clocker. All the same, it's good fun, it's something light, and polls are really an amazing tool. You just need to be creative about how you can bring about recognition to your team members. Now, this is a key point about giving recognition on a regular basis. It's better than giving huge bonuses, right? So think about it. When you give small, little, manageable forms of recognition on a regular basis, the dopamine shot that you get, the bit of happiness that you get, it's more frequent. You'll be like, I'm recognized. As opposed to giving one big bonus, maybe like, at the end of the year or 6 months period, you find that you have to compensate for a lot more if you are delaying the gratification, right? So how you can use this, it's have a lot of tools to appreciate your team members, your team, on a constant regular basis, so that the monthly bonuses that you have to give doesn't have to overcompensate for the lack of sense of recognition throughout, right? So use this effectively to balance the need for gratification and to also balance the monetary resources that you have to reward your teams, right? So use it well. You have a very nice balance as to what's the best way to compensate to your team, right? So and now we are coming to sort of like the midpoint. For those of you who want to ask any question, you can always join in this chat. So just scan the QR code on the top left. If you are on different mobile devices, it's a bit tricky. So what you can do is, if you're on your own mobile device, you can go to ahaslides.com/ahaweb3. So each session, every Thursday, same time around this time, we'll be holding webinar sessions, right? We'll be talking about a lot of things, primarily on operational basis, on team management. And next week we have something quite exciting I'll share towards the end. So if you have any inputs or you want to give us any feedback, use the slide and there's a Q&A session. You can ask questions there. Our team will review and then we will try and create content so that it's useful for you, right? So if you can tell me what you would like me to talk about and share, or uses of AhaSlides you want us to explore and create, like, this is the best way to let us know, yeah? All right. So moving on, um, the last thing you want to do for team engagement, well, actually not the last thing, sorry. Team engagement, let me repeat, is huge. There's a lot of nuances. What I've done is just to compile 3 great tips that's easy to start and easy to use with AhaSlides. So these 3 tips, you can quickly take it, and from next week onwards, on Monday, you can start going. And tip number 3 is I find very useful. So feedback is a huge, tricky question. Primarily, if let's say you are a leader, right, and you want to give feedback to your team member, or you want to ask your team member for feedback, and ask like a simple question like, "What can I do better?" It's a simple question, but it's a loaded question, right? So, for example, if I were to call on my team member, so Audrey, as you guys know from the previous session, it's one of the youngest team member, and I, message her, or I come up to her in the office and say, "Hey, Audrey, can we have a chat later, 15 minutes?" And Audrey's gonna ask me, "Oh, what is it about?" "Oh, I just want to give you feedback." Immediately sound ominous, right? It's like, oh, what's going on here, right? And no matter how you phrase it and whatever medium that you try, it's almost very hard to give or ask for feedback in a very safe way. Now with AhaSlides, it's perfect. Like, I find this an amazing tool, which I could never have before. I didn't think you could do this with interactive presentation, but it's something that I try to do every once in a while, and this is the best question that I would like to ask my team, which is, how can I do better? So imagine it's it's a remote session, right? I'm having my meetings and I want to close out the meeting, and I say, "Hey team, thanks for the good work. I just want to know what I can do better." Now, if you were to ask one to one, it puts that one person in the spot, because sometimes you don't have anything. Like, I've got no problem with my boss. He's okay. He understands me. Lets me do my work, kind of thing, and I really have nothing to say. So you feel pressured, if you've got nothing to say, and your boss comes up to you and say one on one. But if it's in a group and it's anonymous, right? So what happens is you can sort of like rely on your team members. If you got nothing you can come up with, and some of the more vocal team members would be able to, I just work with Amin and I think he should do this better, kind of thing. I find this perfect. It's I don't know how to put it. It's so hard to put in words, but when you put it in practice, it's just bam, like, it's easy. And over here, on a general basis, I can get feedback on how I can do better as a leader of my team, a small team that is, and quickly rectify anything that I should fix quickly, right? And sometimes it could be something like assign tasks with Jira. This is a very simple thing, something that I should actually focus on and spend time to work on. Doesn't take me too much time, but because it's so simple, I might easily forget about it, right? I might like, I can do that later, kind of thing. But it might irk some of my team member, that it becomes a point of contention for something bigger later on. So I'm always a firm believer of, if the problem is solved, you can nip it in bud and doesn't take you much time, like quickly solve it, right? But sometimes you got so many things you can't really tell what to do next. This is really amazing. Like, you can just ask for your team every week, have that truth or dare session, and when someone is having a great fun, you can quickly get their feedback and know what to do next, right? And of course, it doesn't totally replace all your HR 360 feedback, all the more robust ways of getting feedback, and your peer assessment, etc. But it's a good sort of like check-in on a weekly basis, so you can quickly rectify any issues that you might be facing. So cool. So we have one participant. Yeah, this is great. This is great feedback. Ask your seniors. Um, and one of the things you can do is you just do an interactive presentation, and this is called a open-ended slide type in AhaSlides, and you can create this just one slide and you send it to your seniors, right? Those who are in the same field, and you want to ask for their feedback, and you can say, hey, can you take 1 minute, just give me one sentence about how I can do my job better, or I'm facing this problem. What is your 1 minute advice to do this, right? And it creates a very non-intrusive, less friction way of trying to engage with your target audience, right? And I really like this tool. Very open-ended, very non-intrusive, and anonymous. Here's another question that I would recommend any leaders to ask from time to time. It's ask your team member, is there anything that you would like to learn next month? This is not a normal question usually team leaders would ask, because you're so focused on your tasks, that it's easy to avoid, like, what would you want to learn next month, right? But the one thing I've learned, is that the ability for mastery usually compensates for any need for monetary terms. So to put into simple words, yes. So if what I found out is that if you can give your staff the ability to improve themselves, in terms of career, in terms of their skills, the question about monetary is usually secondary, right? So if you give your staff the ability to learn new things, to improve their skills, and you push them, sometimes they don't know what they need, right? And you say, hey, I think you're good for this. I want to push you to try all these things, right? So your staff under you, they learn a lot of things. They feel that they're growing, and sometimes they are okay to get less pay. As long as you cover for the basic needs, they feel fulfilled and satisfied. And the reason is they know that being with you, they get to learn a lot, and it creates potential for their next job. Now, of course, as they get better and better, they are naturally going to get offers externally, and they are also going to get be seen, right, by their team members, and they will know what's their value and they can match it. I'm not saying that this trick about, maybe not trick, this whole concept about developing mastery in your staff, it will compensate the need for increments in salary. All I'm saying is that it removes the constant need for your staff to say, hey boss, up my pay, because your staff is learning. Now as they get more valuable, then of course naturally you will have to compete in terms of salary. In some cases you might not be able to match. It's okay. You feel like it's been a wholesome and worthwhile journey for your staff, right? And that's what is equally important here. So for bosses, remember, skills and mastery is often one of the most important priority for any staff, especially young staff. But for team members, this could be a good way to hint at your boss, hey boss, I would like to learn how to raise my salary. Very subtle here, very good. Pretty cool stuff here. So feedback, it's important two ways, right? One, as a leader, you want to know how you can do better, any of the other things that you might have missed. You want to ask your staff, hey, is there anything I should do better? And two, you want to get their feedback as to, is there anything you can provide for them, create the space so that they can, one, become better, or two, do their job better. So quick recap. I'm going to quickly go back to the slide. So the first tip in team engagement, but before that, so the whole idea about team engagement is you want to build trust in your team members, and you want to expand the safe space between yourself and your team members, right? And this would create an environment that is cultivating, so it creates a lot of creativity and therefore makes you and your team more productive, right? And the first tip is you want to get to know each other, and the second tip is you want to recognize their team uh, hard work and their efforts on a regular basis. And the third is you want to make it easy for you to get feedback and give feedback, right? So yeah, we've come to the end of the session. I hope this 30 minutes has been useful for those of you who are joining me um, post live. Take note, we are going to be here every Thursday, 8 p.m. And the next session, we are going to talk about sales. So this is a very interesting topic, which is how do you sell better using interactive presentation. I'll run through the concept of conversational selling, right? And yeah, this is, AhaSlides is it's a very simple tool. It's interactive presentation, and though it's simple, it sort of like creates a kind of environment that makes it interesting, right? And I couldn't have done this in my previous teams without Aha Slides, like things like getting feedback, creating a safe space, and it's how do you say? I find it totally interesting. I never expected the interactive presentation to be so useful. Um, so I hope you could try and explore and see if it works for you. If you have any feedback, so I'm going to make the what do you call it, the presentation open later on, and we'll check. So if you have any questions, any feedback, you can always put it in. All you have to do is to go to ahaslides.com/ahaweb3, and you can either put in your answers or skip to the last slide, or you can put in a QA and you can ask questions also. So yeah, so for those who have joined the live stream, thanks for joining. I hope you find this live stream useful. And I hope to see you guys again next week, Thursday, 8 p.m. Singapore time, 8 a.m. on the Eastern time. See you soon. All right, take care, everyone.